All right. This is the final project. So I didn't comment this at all. I kind of working on it pretty heavily and just haven't gotten around to commenting anything. So I'll kind of talk through it. I have the developer tools open over here. Nothing's break pointed or anything like that, so it won't be too helpful. But I decided to go with a choose your own adventure story. Um, Calling it a strange day at work. We can kind of actually, I think we'll run through this first. We'll play a little bit, and then it's not too long, and then we'll double back and look at the code. But we'll start here. So strange day at work. Press the button to begin. We'll press it and begin. You've just walked into work at the fast food restaurant you work for. As you enter, you hear the front door lock behind you. Confused, you walk in to begin your shift. You find you are the only one in the building, and you can already see cars pulling into the drive thru. Quickly, you grab a headset and run to the back to take the first order. The person begins ordering quickly, and it is hard for you to catch up. They sound irritated that they had to wait. We've got our two choices here, so we can enter what we can remember and have them pull forward, or we can interrupt them and ask them to repeat themselves. They already sound irritated, so maybe we'll enter what we can remember and then just have them pull forward, right? The customer looks at the receipt after they pay and notice that you got their order completely wrong. They'll look at you aghast as their face turns red and the veins in their forehead begin to bulge. As you try to back away in shock, they dive through the drive-through window and clamp their hands around your neck. Your vision begins to fade as the customer screeches incoherently into your face. Your shift comes to an end as you suffocate and die. The end. I'll have to fix that. Our story branches a couple times. And As opposed to most choose your own adventures with a branch and continue on, I didn't have a lot of time to do that, and also it's kind of the way I've implemented it is kind of a mess to set up. So, alternatively, I have every step of the story either terminate or the other option will continue it. So our other option would be to interrupt them and ask them to repeat themselves. So we'll go ahead and do that. The customer repeats themselves more slowly, and you make sure you get everything right. They pull into the window and pay. Quickly, you rush to the kitchen where everything is set up and ready, with no other employees in sight. You run to toast the buns, and looking at the big order, you get started. So you can run to start cooking the fries, or you can start cooking the beef patties. Run to the fries. You quickly run towards the fries to start cooking fries. It takes you a fraction of a second to let out a startled yell as your shoes slip on the greasy floor. You wave your arms frantically in an effort to regain your balance, but it's too late. You hit the edge of the fryer and tumble headfirst into the scalding oil. Your shift comes to an end as your head deep fries to a golden brown. The end. And so we'll get to the same point, and we'll start cooking the beef patties and go from there. So moving to start placing the beef patties, you startle to realize the floor is extremely greasy and slick. You carefully shuffle to finish cooking all the meat you need, putting it into the waiting tray. Shuffling over to the assembly table, you drop off the meat and lay out the buns. Then you carefully slide over to the fryer, where you begin to drop baskets of fries. With the sandwiches made and the fries finished, you slide your way to the front and bag it up. When you arrive up front, you realize, to your horror, that the order has a lot of ice cream on it as well. You hand the customer the food, and they start clawing through the bag, mumbling incoherently to themselves. You let the window shut as you rush to start the ice cream orders. Even going as fast as you can, the machine is just so slow that it takes a while. You open the window to hand the customer the ice cream when you are greeted by a barrage of fries and burgers. Without a chance to even realize what has happened, your neck is pierced by an onslaught of cold, hard French fries. Your shift comes to an end as you quickly bleed out and die. So going back to the same point, make the ice cream first. So you get the ice cream together and hand it out quickly, then pass the customer their food. They snatch it greedily from your hands and begin to scrounge through the bag, making sure everything is there. With a hiss of discontent, they shove the bag back at you and in a deep, booming voice condemn the fries for being old and cold. Their eyes glimmer with a hungry gleam as they lean forward and demand that you fix the problem to their satisfaction. Either choice we pick here will both lead to the end. We can give them their money back, make the entire order again. Let's give them their money back. And it breaks. This is my favorite. And actually, I'm kind of interested why it breaks. It only does it sometimes, and I have a feeling. Oh my goodness. There we go. As you nervously await their judgment, you notice the line of cars waiting to order extends far past the horizon. You shiver as the voice of the customer creeps into your ear, commending you on a job well done. With one last nod of satisfaction, the customer tears off into the distance, leaving behind only the smell of gasoline. You breathe a sigh of relief and quietly hang up the headset. Your shift comes to an end as you walk out of the front door and never return. Yeah. So that's how it works. Spelling errors aside, and also I believe probably the reason that we have errors on the last page has something to do with the asynchronous functions or the fetch function, especially in recording software running. Because without it running, it works pretty much every time. But I don't know enough about that, and it works most of the time, so we'll stick with it for now at least. Moving over here. So a little bit of how this works. I'm using basically state and step and state are the way I'm describing the flowchart that we're going through, or the story beats that we're going through. And then I've hard coded the endings, just for ease of use. A lot of this is framework here, which should work regardless of what happens, regardless of the story. And then on this side is where I've set up all of my actual story beats. So everything's just text files. It just reads straight from them. And if I can find those spelling errors I got here. And yeah, so it just loads these in. Basically, our driving function here is the build step here, and that's what we run after we do our first on-click on our HTML file, right? We just use our build step, pass it to step 1, which is where we start in our story. The state doesn't matter because we don't have one yet. But basically, it just runs through here, starting with build step, and that's kind of our loop, our game loop. We start with output, where in output we just reset everything, we clear everything, we increment our step, and then we create our elements, right? So our buttons, we rename it, we give it its event listeners, its click functions, which is, again, just the same function that we just called, right? We just set that up, we pass it the step and the state, and we do the same thing for the second button, and then we append everything, right? Going from there, it skips down to the text, where we then use fetch, and we get the text for the step that we're on. And then we just set the text field as that. After that, we go down to options, and we get our options. It's this exact same process. We get both the options. All of our options are separated. There's 2 of them per step. So option 1-1, option 1-2 would be for step 1, right? And so we do that for both of them. And then we just set the button text to be those. And then we bump down to get ending, and it's the exact same process, right? We pass a step, we pass a state. Here we're checking to see if the ending, our list of endings up here, if the state is the same, right? So if our ending for whatever, in this case, like for the first one, if our ending 2, if the state is 1, then we pass it the ending. If the state is 2, then we progress to the next step. And then our reset function just resets everything. It's pretty similar to what we did before. And that is basically the program, right? It's just a pretty simple loop, and it's pretty loose. It's a nice framework to work with, and actually building it this way allowed me to kind of just not worry about the story at all until it came time to actually work it, which was really nice. Again, I didn't do too much by way of commenting things or anything like that, but I think it turned out pretty well. Again, the only thing I think I had problems with was sometimes the ending, at least only while I've been recording, will give the cannot get statement, and I wonder if it's because the fetch is taking just a little bit longer to respond. But then again, I don't know, because it shouldn't with the thens. Maybe I don't know how to use it right. So anyway, so that's my choose your own adventure. It's pretty good. I like it. Worked out. Thanks.